All right guys, I'm working on my hay tedder this evening. So the problem with it is I got a seal leaking in the cylinder. So it's leaking here, and you can see, if I can get you in the right spot, you can see that the seal is poked out of the cylinder. And you can see the mess that it's made. It's been doing this all season and I just hadn't fixed it. I've already done I did the other side right before right when I ended last season. So, ooh, that hose looks kind of worn. So anyway, I'm going to replace this seal, and somebody had asked me if I'd replace the seal on the other side, and they I think they wanted some direction on this. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to replace the seal on this thing. First thing, some tools that you're going to need. You're going to need a 11/16 wrench. You're going to need a 9/32 nut driver to take this clamp off. I've already started this process, obviously. The 11/16 takes this hydraulic fitting loose. You got to take it loose. Next thing I got to do is break this loose and spin the rod out of this. I'm not going to take this off. I'm just going to spin the rod out of that. And I've actually already broken this cylinder loose. You would think it comes apart right here, but it does not. It actually comes apart up here. And I've already broke it loose. And what did I use to break it loose with? Well, it was this snap-on PWZ3. It's kind of like a pipe wrench, but it's a pair of pliers that adjust like a pipe wrench. But a pipe wrench will do the same thing. But anyway, I've already broke it loose. I caught it right here. This is kind of hard to do one-handed. Let's see here. Set you right here. There you go. Can you see me? Maybe. Yeah. All right. I caught it right here and twisted it. Now, be careful. You can come back here since it doesn't break loose here. You don't want to get against this nipple right here and break it off. So it comes loose. It comes loose right there. You can see where it breaks loose at. Now the next thing I got to do is take this loose, like I said. I'm going to do that now. Okay, so 1 3/16 wrench here breaks this loose. I've already done it. It actually wasn't all that tight. Just break it loose a little bit. Don't screw it all the way down so you know exactly where it goes back. You just run it up till it's going to be snug. And you can put your rod right back where that nut is when you put it back together. So after you do that, 18 millimeter, it's got a little flat places here to get a hold of the cylinder rod, and you just screw it out of the block. Last time I done it, I took this block off, but you got to fight with beating these roll pins out, and I just figured it'd be simpler to do this time. You don't have to deal with the roll pins, and you got to take this block off anyway to get the rod out. And I told you wrong, you actually have to screw that nut off. So it's not going to help you on putting it back together. But anyway, we're about to get that out, I think. Jeez. I don't remember them being that long. It's been about a year since I've done this though, so. There we go. And if you got two hands, you don't have to let the cylinder bang against the frame like that. Now the next thing to do is to screw this off, and there's going to be oil that comes out of it. So I'm going to have my thing here ready to catch oil. You want to clean this joint right here too. Let me get I've already cleaned it, some of it. Let me get another rag. I cleaned it before I broke it loose, so you don't get a bunch of trash in there. Ether works really good to clean it. I cleaned the whole cylinder. It had oil all over it, but the cleaner you can keep this when you take it apart, the better, because you don't want trash getting in your hydraulic cylinder. So I cleaned the whole cylinder. I need to clean it a little more. Okay. It's just getting more and more on it as I turn it because there's so much oil in there, but we'll go ahead and take it off. And there's like a thing, I remember this thing, it's just sticking up in the cylinder a little bit. And there is a spring in this cylinder. That's what there's a spring right here. You got to get it out, which I don't think it's hard to do, but I don't know why it ain't coming out. We'll go over here where I can get both hands on it. Let's see here. I'm going to push this rod, and I think it might push it out. And I'm sorry, there's actually not any oil in this end, because all the oil's in this end. So that was my mistake. I shouldn't have said that. So there's no oil comes out of the end that you unscrew, but there is a spring in there. And I just use the rod to push it out. I'm gonna pull the spring out. It's got little bushings on it. Just lay it to the side, and you need to remember to put it back in there. And now this nut needs to come off right here. Once you take the nut off, you can get the rod out of the cylinder. We'll clean it, get all the junk off of it. Clean this end. Now, we're going to push the cylinder out. Getting hung in the seal a little bit. I may have to, nice. The seal, this seal right here is hanging on the threads a little bit, and that's all right. It will come out. There it goes. Wait a minute, now it's got my shirt. Daggone it. There we go. So once you get it past the seal, then there is oil. So here, you're gonna need a clean rag, which I got right here. You're gonna clean these seals off, because while you're in there, the seal kit comes with all the packing that goes on this cylinder, which includes this stuff right here. So while you're in here, we're gonna go ahead and replace this little bushing and this blue seal. But the seal that is leaking is right here, and you gotta replace it by reaching in here with a pick and digging those out. It's kind of difficult, but it can be done. I've done it before. So that's what we're gonna get started on next. All right, guys, so the first thing we'll work on is I'm gonna work on the rod here. So I got my little screwdriver here always. So you gotta take this thing off. Yeah. Don't really need a screwdriver to do that, but it's just a little plastic ring. And then pay particularly close attention to this seal right here. It's got a lip on it, and the lip faces the oil. The oil's on the rod side. You can see this lip right here. It's kind of sticking up. When you put the new one on, it has to be sticking up on the same side, or the oil, if this lip is turned around over here, the oil will just blow by it. It'll just mash it down and blow by. So there's also a little seal here, and then this seal that needs to be replaced. Now, this is the packing kit. It is $141, I believe, is what this cost. So it's not exactly cheap, and there's not a whole lot to it. And so there's a couple pieces in there you don't even use. But anyway, you got to reuse this. So I just took it off so I could get the seals over it. So the new seal that comes with the kit is green instead of blue. So we'll lay it here. And the new center seal, which is this, is orange. And I don't think it matters which way you put it in there. It's made the same both ways. So we'll go ahead and work these two seals off with the screwdriver. And you don't really want to put your rod in a vise. So that's why I'm not using the vise, using a vise. You gotta get kind of rough with these seals because they are very stiff. So there's one. I'll get the green one off. Now, there is, after you get this green one off here, there is another seal underneath it, and I believe what it's for is just to keep the green / orange one pushed out of the groove. So, and there it is. It's just an O-ring. It's just and it does come in the kit. So we'll put it on. Put the O-ring back, the new O-ring on. Let me turn you down just a little bit so you can see me. Gotta use the screwdriver to help me get it pried. Just be careful. You don't want to jab the screwdriver through the O-ring. Then here's the center seal. It goes right here in the center. So we'll put it on. You got to use the screwdriver again to help get it over there. I got a twist in it. You gotta make sure you don't twist it. So I'm trying to get the twist out of it. There we go. And there it is. It's on correctly. No twist. Check it out all the way around. Make sure it's all the same. Looks good. And then we got to put the new oil seal on with the, like I said a minute ago, you got to have that taper like that, facing the oil. So we'll stick it in there. This one's really stiff. You gotta get kind of rough with it. May have to pry it with a screwdriver a little bit. It's about like putting a tire on the rim. Oh, there it went. There we go. Now I'm going to put the plastic guide that I just threw on the floor. I'll put it back on. It's just it just keeps the metal from rubbing against the walls of the barrel. So there. Now we have the rod end rebuilt, and it's ready to go back in the barrel. We'll lay it on a rag, keep it clean. Now the next thing I got to do is look at the right end here. We got to replace this. You can see this seal right here that is all boogered up is a dust seal, and we can see if we can go ahead and pull it out. I hope I'm not too close to y'all that you can't see. Anyway, we'll pull this dust seal out, and you can see where it's messed up there. Now, the dust seal really doesn't have anything to do with it leaking. It's actually the next seal behind this that keeps it from leaking. And what happens is once that seal in here starts leaking, then it'll blow this seal out like it did. Just the oil pressure will blow it out. So that's what happened to that seal. So this seal is the hardest seal in the whole system to change. It's got to be compressed a certain way to get it in and out. I'm going to put it in this vise right here, as this gets aggravating. And I need both hands. So just got to basically take your little screwdriver here and fight with it. You got to get in behind it. And if the screwdriver is not, I can start it, but I can't get it out. So hold on and let me I'll show you something that works good for working on stuff like this. And I'm gonna have to get a new one. This is about wore out. The hook's about wore out on it. This is a pick that I use a lot on stuff like this, but it's kind of like a dentist pick. Anyway, you got to work it in there and get that in behind it. I don't know if y'all can see down in there very well, but there, I'm trying not to block the light. I got the seal started, and then you have to move it like that and get it coming up out of the hole. And that's exactly how the new one has to go back in there. Now you also need to pay attention to how this seal is oriented when you put the new one in. And there is a bevel right there, and it's facing the oil again. So when you put the new one in, you got to put this bevel facing the oil side, which is inside the cylinder, obviously. The oil's in the cylinder, not on the outside of the cylinder. So here is this new seal. It's the same color basically, and this is the side that faces the oil, so it will go back in there just like this one came out. This is a little bit tricky getting this seal in here because it's down in there, 2 grooves. So you got one groove here for the dust seal, and then you got the other groove down here, and so you got to get it past this groove into that groove, and that is the tricky part. So you have to, there is a tool for doing this, and we actually have that tool here. We have a tool here, but it belongs to one of our employees, and I'm not going to use it, mainly because Most of you are not going to have that tool, and you're going to be doing it the same way I'm doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pick to kind of guide the seal into its groove, and then you kind of got to put it back in just like you've seen me pull it out, and it's not the simplest thing to do, but it is possible. Try not to poke a hole in it with the pick. Be careful about do not poke a hole in it. And I just got it right in there. So there it is. It's in there. The bevel is facing the right way. So the next thing that you got to put in is this. This is the dust seal. Now on the dust seal, this part, this right here, faces towards the outside of the cylinder. This keeps, as the cylinder sliding in, this bevel sticking out keeps the dust from going into the cylinder. You don't want to put it like this, because then dirt can get inside the cylinder by pushing its way past that lip. You want the lip facing out towards the outside of the cylinder, so it gets a good tight ring around the cylinder and it can't let stuff in. So we'll stick that in there. Don't be afraid to bend these seals however you need to, basically to get them in their spot. They're pretty resilient. Just be careful when working on them with tools not to poke holes in them. You don't want to poke a hole in them. And this one is being kind of a it's going. There we go. Almost there. All right, it's in there. So that's the dust seal. And look at it up close here. So the next thing to do is to start reassembling the whole kit and caboodle. So what you want to do is you want to put Vaseline on these seals right here. So I'll be right back. I'm going to get some Vaseline. I've got some Vaseline. I'm going to put it on this seal, and this just helps let the seal slide back in the barrel easily, because it's kind of got to compress as it goes in, and this will kind of help it slide right in there. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to put Vaseline on these seals. Okay. Now I'm going to be careful with this threaded end going in here. Try not tear up the seals. So what you got to do is stick your finger up in there. About lost it. And you got to help guide this rod back into the hole a little bit. Just be patient with this thing. You may have to get, this Vaseline has some type of scent in it apparently. So I'm going to use a hammer handle to help, except not this hammer handle because it's too big. And we'll try this hammer handle. It's also too big. Okay. There's one in here somewhere that ain't so big. Here we go. Maybe this one's. Here we go. Okay. Okay, I can see in there that the rod is up against it and it's not lined up, so I got to stick a tool in there. I can't reach in there deep enough. So what I'm going to do, if I hold it vertical, I can get it lined up with the hole. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to wiggle it around till I get it lined up. And I'm going to push it through. And there it goes. All right, so I got it back in there. The next thing that has to go back, and I really need to pull the rod all the way out, or most of the way out, because that's where it's got to be at when I put it back on the machine. Now, one thing we got to remember when we go over here and put this thing back together is we got to put that big spring back in here. Now, you're going to have some leftover parts. I did last time and I did this time too. But you got a couple of O-rings here. And I don't know why they sent it, but they don't go anywhere. Not in this part of it anyway. So we'll go over here and look. This was the last kit I done, yeah. And it's got different O-rings in it from what I had left over on this. And they're the same part number, so that's kind of weird. But that's like a little cushion ring or something, but you don't need it, apparently, because there's not one in this cylinder. Oh, me. So we'll go over here and look and make sure this part on the machine doesn't have an O-ring on it, and I don't remember seeing one on it. There may have been an O-ring right there at one time. I'll see if there's an O-ring that fits that. If there is, I'll put it on there. But there was not one. There wasn't one on it when I took it off. I haven't seen that O-ring, unless it's completely deteriorated, which I doubt. So I want to get this larger O-ring here, and I'm going to see if it fits those threads. I think it's too big. I think this O-ring's bigger than anything on this machine. Yeah, look at that. That O-ring is bigger than the cylinder. That O-ring goes nowhere on this machine. So I don't know why they sent it, unless they could charge extra, $40 for a few parts that you don't need. Probably more like it. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we'll go over here. We're going to put this cylinder. We're going to put this spring back in the cylinder. It goes back in here like this. Now, don't forget, we got to put this nut, this locking nut on. So we'll do that. There's a locking nut. I could see about, I remember I was able to see about 1 or 2 threads right here. So that's where I'm going to put it back at. Then we'll go over here and y'all hang out right here for a minute. So there's no seal on this end that I could see, but there's no oil supposed to be on this end. Now this rod right here, I hope you can see. I hope you can see what I'm doing. This rod, it goes up inside the spring. And you start tightening it back. Make sure it doesn't cross thread. It should spin easily. Come on now. Once you get it started, it should spin easily. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start this end right here back in. And I'll get my wrench, tighten it. This is going to take a minute. You can take that roll pin out and pull that pin on that block, but it's going to take you a little extra time messing with the roll pin and all that stuff. I did it on the other side. I think this may be a little bit quicker to do right here. And then you don't have to deal with the roll pins. So now I'm just going to snug it lock jam nut back. And now the next thing I need to do is tighten the barrel. Now basically, when I took it apart, this thing was vertical with the machine. So I'm going to try to get it back to that point. There you go. Now, one good reason to catch this thing on the very end with a pair of pliers or a pipe wrench is so you don't crush this barrel. See, there's actually a chunk of steel inside of it right here, where these seals and everything go. So get it out here close to this end with your pipe wrench or whatever, so you don't crush. If you get it over here, you could potentially crush it and deform it, and then it's going to leak. So you don't want to do that. So the next thing I got to do is pretty simple. Hook the hose back up. And I'll show you one thing that I forgot to do. Make sure your hose connection here is clean. Make sure this is clean. Hook the hose back up. Takes 11/16 wrench. Sorry if I'm not pointing exactly what I'm doing. It's trying to film it yourself and do it all yourself. You can't look from behind the camera and see what you're actually filming. I might be filming outer space or something, but I'm trying to do the best I can for you. All right, so the next thing is, one thing I forgot to do is slide this clamp back over the cylinder. But that's not the end of the world, because, and what this clamp does is it just clamps the hose to the cylinder. You can take these clamps apart by unscrewing them. So I'm going to just unscrew it. Put it around it. And you put it back together. And then you screw it back. So it's just a whole lot more screwing that way. I guess you could get fancy and put a drill on it or something and go a little faster. And this is a 9/32 nut driver, by the way. And I think it'll also, yeah, it'll take a flat blade screwdriver if you ain't got a 9/32 nut driver or a 9/32 socket. Probably take something metric, like maybe, it'd probably take an 8mm. I'm not sure. Everything, this is a Krone, so everything on it's is most likely metric. But some of you might probably already know, like a 19mm is the same as a 3/4. This 9/32 is the same as, I think, an 8mm. And this 1 3/16 is, well, I don't remember what size it is, but I think it's really close to a metric size. So, yeah, we're actually complete. We have all the parts put back together. I need to grease this little thing, and I'll go ahead and do that here in a minute. But oh yeah, what's that? You want to see it work now? Make sure it still works. Okay, well, let's lay our tools over here and see if this old Massey Ferguson will crank. We'll cycle it a few times to work the air out. Typically, you don't have to do anything special to get the air out of it. Just work it a couple times. So we'll go ahead and crank the tractor. Close the door so it ain't so loud in here. All right, I'm going to work it. Bottoming out the cylinder, so hydraulic, so it'll push the air out. And I'm gonna put it in float, put it back down. Now I'm gonna raise it back up again. I'll let it back down. Now I'm gonna go out here and we're gonna check for leaks. Cut the tractor off. We'll check for leaks and then call it job well done, hopefully. Okay, let's take a look. And I see a little Vaseline, but I don't see any oil. No oil at this connection. And there shouldn't ever be oil here because there's no oil on this side of the cylinder. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed my cylinder repacking video on Krone 5.52 4x7T. It's an 18-foot wide tedder. It's been a pretty good tedder for the most part. It's had some issues. I mean, it's supposed to have guards like that on the front. They all broke off. Actually, the rear ones broke off too, but we rebuilt the parts that held it on with this heavy wall tubing here. It had tubing like this, and it all broke. So just from bouncing in the fields. My fields are kind of rough and it bounces a lot and it just breaks. All the guards just fall off of it. These, I've had to tighten these a few times, and I have not had any axles break on this thing though. I know some other people that's had the axles break, and I have not had one break yet, and I'm going over here and knock on wood right now. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see you on the next one.